Hey guys, it's Brijette with San Luis Company, and I'm in the garden inspecting the damage after record temperatures we've had here in Southern California. It's been 20 degrees above average for March here in San Diego. So this video is going to be your 48-hour heat wave rescue video. I'm gonna give you tips and tricks on how you can try to prevent as much damage as possible when we get heat waves, which we will, and they will be more often. So if you wanna save your garden, make sure you stick around and check out the tips in this video. Okay, so what is a heat wave? Well, let's just really focus on the fact that a heat wave is a sudden amount of heat that happens that is totally off the regular weather patterns that we have for that time of year. Now, we're having them more and more, and above all, everybody's gardens are hotter and drier, especially in zone 9 and 10. So the tips in this video you should use year round. But in particular, when we're having a heat wave, a sudden amount of temperature that is well above the regular seasonal temperatures, your plants really take a hit because they haven't gradually become accustomed to that. There's likely not enough moisture in the soil, and the intensity of the UV light is so much that you're likely to have fried plants. So what do you do and how do you save your plants if you're looking at your phone and you're like, oh my gosh, next week it's going to be 90 when it should be 70. Here are the 4 tips that I'm going to give you. So the first thing you should do if you see a heat wave is run to your hose bib. Get your hose. Now this applies even if you have irrigation. Take your hose, put it on your raised bed or put it on the planting area and turn on the water and turn it on to just barely a tiny little bit of water, just a little bit of water. In fact, we probably could turn that on even a little bit lower. The reason being is I really want to water deeply and thoroughly all around the root zone of these plants. And if I turn this on really low, I can leave it on here, and I might leave it on here for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. I don't know, it depends on the soil, how dry it is, how hot it's gonna be. But the reason why I'm doing it is because during a heat wave, the first thing that will kill your plants is not even the excessive temperatures, it's the lack of moisture. Because the temperatures are so high, the moisture in the soil evaporates, the moisture out of the plants gets totally sucked out, and they simply die from dehydration. So making sure you water really deeply and heavily. And as I mentioned, even though I have irrigation, I might still do this method of pre-watering before a heat wave to help save my plants because the irrigation simply isn't enough. Now, the day of the heat wave, I might up the irrigation to twice that day. I might run it in the morning and then again in the evening to replenish what was lost. But a day or a day before, I'm actually running my hose in the planting area to thoroughly rehydrate the soil and prepare it for the really hot temperatures. All right, so tip number 2 is cover your soil with what? Mulch. I talk about it in all my videos. I'm obsessed with it because it makes a huge difference, especially here in zone 9 and 10. So you can use any mulch. I really like wood chips, and you're gonna put a lot around your plants. Now, you never wanna take mulch and push it all the way up against the stem of your plants. You wanna leave a little bit of a donut here for airflow and to keep insects off. But what this is doing is basically adding organic lid that is going to help keep inside the soil all that moisture that we just put in. So this is the reason why it's tip number 2. You do need to follow these in order. And then you need to grab your hose and you need to water again. And this time we're going to water on a lighter setting, like a mist setting, or on the shower setting. And basically we're going to rehydrate as much as we can of this mulch to, again, keep the moisture in. Everything about protecting your plants during the heat wave is about keeping as much moisture in the soil and available to the plants as possible. Okay, so tip number 3 is put up your shade cloth. Now that may seem really obvious and that might be the first thing that you run and do, but really shade cloth should be after you've watered, because no matter how much shade cloth you put up, if there's not enough moisture in the ground when a heat wave hits, your plants are going to die. You can use any shade cloth you have on hand, but know that any shade cloth that's over 40% left on too long will actually stunt your plants because it's not enough sunlight. So throw your shade cloth on your plants. You can either hang it up on something like this, or we love using these guys here. They're just wire that we cut that you can stick in the ground. You can easily throw it on top of that. If you have something like these baskets, you can use those. And in a real emergency, you can literally just throw the shade cloth on top of your plants. As long as it's not too heavy that it doesn't snap the stems, the benefit will far outweigh any damage that can happen from literally just throwing the shade cloth on top of your plants. Now, if you don't have any shade cloth on hand, use whatever you have that is a fabric that is breathable. Now, if you put a sheet on top of your plants, well, that's just like you going to the beach with like a blanket on. You're gonna be hot. It needs to be something breathable, so burlap will work. Anything that is basically going to cut out a little bit of that sunlight so that you reduce the amount of evaporation from the soil and the intensity of the sun on the plants. Okay, so tip number 4 is check your irrigation. I know this sounds, again, like stupid common sense, but you have to do it because here's a good example. I thought my irrigation was running because it was running until a toddler came along and decided to mess with the dial and it wasn't running. The other thing that can happen is things can get clogged, accidentally areas can get turned off. If you don't have your irrigation running on, during, and before a heat wave, your plants are likely to suffer. So you really got to make sure it's running, and you might have to turn up the time that it's running by 10, 15, or even 20%. So make sure that your plants are getting enough moisture. The overall theme of this video is it's not so much about the sun as it is the moisture. Plants can really endure some pretty incredible temperatures. If you've ever seen our farm in Ramona, that gets super hot. And the way in which we can grow plants out there is making sure there's plenty of moisture in the soil. Okay, so whether or not it's hot summer temperatures or a heat wave, take these 4 tips that I've given you to make the most out of your garden in hot weather areas. Make sure you get some shade cloth from our online store and follow all of our videos to know how to grow successfully in really hot climates.